Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. So can I have a roll call, please, Ron?
Here.
Do you want to call out? Here. Oops. Sorry. Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay, adequate notice of this meeting of the Berkeley Heights Board of Education was given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act as follows. On January 6, 2023, notice of the Board of Education meeting schedule was sent to the Star Ledger and the Courier News and was also provided to all schools, PTO presidents, the BHEA president, and posted at the administration building. A copy was also provided to the public library and filed with the municipal clerk. Adjourn to executive session. Whereas the Berkeley Heights Board of Education seeks to adjourn to executive session in full compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, NJSA 10:4-8sec. And whereas the Open Public Meetings Act provides that a public body may exclude the public from that portion of the meeting at which it discusses matters related to those identified below. Matters rendered confidential by federal law, state law, or court rule. Individual privacy, collective bargaining agreements, purchase or lease of real property if public interest could be adversely affected, investment of public funds if public interest could be adversely affected, tactics or techniques utilized in protecting public safety and property, pending or anticipated litigation, attorney-client privilege, personnel, employment matters affecting specific prospective or current employees. Be it resolved that the Berkeley Heights Board of Education adjourns to executive session to discuss matters related to personnel and student matters. And be it further resolved that the minutes of the discussion of any of these items will be disclosed to the public when matters have been determined and confidentiality is no longer applicable. Do I have a motion to adjourn to executive session? Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Adjourned. We will return approximately 7:30. Thank you. I'm sorry, we're a little late. So I would like a motion to return to public session. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Can we please stand for the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening. So I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to go straight to the report of the superintendent. So Dr. Varley, do you want to go ahead?
Good evening, everyone. I have a great deal of people to introduce, but I'm going to first start out with Olivia Judique, who is our new junior student representative. So we want to welcome you, Olivia. Olivia is an impressive student who at the end of this year will have 7 AP classes under her belt. She is very involved in clubs and activities. She is on the fencing team and participates in leadership positions in various student organizations. She participated in the Women in STEAM event and has mentored CMS female students who are also interested in STEAM. I am excited to welcome Olivia to the Board of Education table. Next, we have Jake Bowen back. Jake also has an impressive resume with 8 AP classes at the end of his senior year. Is it 8? Because I counted. I counted through Power School. He is also very involved in student activities. He participates in track and field. And if you're at a football game, you will see him on the sidelines taking notes for his next article. Jake spent the past 2 summers at Syracuse University at the Newhouse School of Communications Department on sports broadcasting. Welcome back, Jake. And now I'll turn it over to you guys to do your student report.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another great school year. The Governor Livingston fall sports teams have been busy preparing in August for the start of their season. Here's what's been going on. The Governor Livingston football team is 3-1 with a huge win against rival Arthur L. Johnson, North Plainfield, and today against JP Stevens. The football athlete of the month is junior Jack Daly. Daly leads the team in rushing yards with 336 and 5 touchdowns. He also leads the team in tackles with 22 on the defensive side. Head coach Peter Amicio notes, Jack has been a driving force for us so far this season. He took the move to running back in stride and has set a great example for his teammates. He's been a leader defensively as well, playing with a chip on his shoulder and an aggression that our guys have fed off of. Jack continues to grow as both an athlete and a leader in our program. The GL boys soccer team is 2-0 with a win against a very tough Cranford team to start their season. The GL girls soccer team is 0-1. The Highlander field hockey team is 2-0 with wins against Verona and Caldwell as they look to bounce back from their 7-10-2 record last season. The girls tennis team is 2-0 with wins against Madison and Dayton to start their season. The cheer team has been busy performing at all of the Highlander home football games this season. Lastly, the volleyball team is 3-0 to start their season with wins against Scotch Plains Fanwood, Cranford, and Ken Place.
Good evening, everyone. As we wrap up the first 2 full weeks of school, GL students are settling in and the seniors are enjoying exciting new privileges such as open campus. Although GL students have only been back for a couple of weeks, they have already managed to make the most of their time here. Activities including Photo Club, National Art Honor Society, Women in STEM and Robotics Club have already held their first meetings in anticipation of the GL Club Fair that is taking place on September 27th. Additionally, the GL Theater program has announced its fall play, Puffs, which is based on the Harry Potter series, and the auditions were recently held. As we head into the fall, there are plenty of exciting events taking place at GL, including the annual Highlander Band Pageant on October 15th. The pageant features the award-winning Governor Livingston Marching Band, as well as other bands from across the state. We are also so excited to announce that GL will be holding a homecoming dance on September 29th. Our students cannot wait for the dance's kickoff to the GL Spirit Week that leads up to Friday Night Lights. The students are looking forward to celebrating a successful start to the school year, and they hope to create a tradition for the years to come.
So before I ask the board members if they've got any questions, on behalf of the board, I want to welcome you back, Jake. It's good to have you back. And I want to welcome you, Olivia. We're very excited for you both to be part of our team, and we're looking forward to having you here with us. So do any board members have any question for our representatives?
I just had one quick one. Was there a date for the fall play or dates for the fall play, or is that TBD?
That's TBD right now.
Thanks.
So the past, sorry, you had a question?
I wanted to know if anybody knows if the volleyball team won.
I don't know, but I can check if it's on NJ.com right now.
All right. Look it up, Jake.
Oh, no. Both teams. Oh.
Good one.
So I would like to say that the first couple of weeks have gone swimmingly. We always have a few hiccups, as does every other district, but so far this year has gone smoothly. Tonight, we have some new people and some familiar faces to introduce. With our new face right next to me is Dr. Giordano, is present for his first Board of Education meeting with Berkeley Heights Public Schools. So welcome, Dr. Giordano. Dr. Christine Seminario is out there in the public back there. This is her first board meeting, and Kevin Mora is present for his first meeting as the incoming Director of Special Services. We also have Jeremy Marks in the audience. He is on the agenda to take over the technology coordinator role. We have many appointments on this agenda. We're excited to welcome Anthony Juskowitz as an experienced business administrator. He's out there. If you want to wave, Anthony, Anthony's out there. And Alyssa Rush as our special supervisor of special services. Dennis Dagunas is taking over the role as assistant principal, and we are pleased to have a strong instructional leader taking this role. And that is the last of the introductions for our staff members. But with that, I will turn it over. We have a wonderful discussion happening tonight by one of our students. So Gia, I'm going to turn it over to you. Gia Ghosh, if you'd like to come up and talk to us.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. I would like to begin by saying thank you to the members of the Board of Education for so graciously allowing me some time out of today's meeting to say what I have to say. And thank you especially to Ms. Stanley, who heard me give the speech that I'm about to give at a town hall meeting a few months ago for Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, and kindly reached out to me to offer me the opportunity to speak once again. I always found solace in my name. Short and sweet is what my mother called it after my father tried to convince her to name me Gayatri, a mouthful of vowels and consonants strung together that Americans, she asserted, would be simply incapable of pronouncing. He wrote the name Gayatri on a napkin in the hospital as my mother was wheeled into the operating room and asked every nurse he saw how they would pronounce it. Most of the responses he received were along the lines of Gayatri, and he even got one guitar-y. Clearly, the responses he received proved to him that Gayatri, the name of the Hindu goddess of wisdom, the female manifestation of sunlight, wouldn't be able to exist in the world my mother was about to bring me into. Seconds before she was about to go into labor, my father called out, "We'll name her Gia, ethnic, but not too ethnic." Growing up in Edison, New Jersey, lovingly referred to by its residents as Little India, I was just like everyone else. My friends had names like Anushka, Soham, and Dia. I had idli and dosas at my fingertips. I could watch Bollywood movies in the theater 2 minutes away whenever I desired. I never realized what a privilege it was to be surrounded by my culture until I moved to Berkeley Heights, often not so lovingly referred to as Berkeley Whites. I was the only Indian girl in my grade. We were one of 2 Indian families in our neighborhood. At school, I answered questions like, "Where's your red dot?" and "What's that weird smell coming from your lunchbox?" and was looked at strangely when I didn't know what a communion was. "Aren't you Christian?" "No, I thought everyone was Christian," a classmate later exclaimed. My friends had names like Ava, Brianna, and Abby. We had to drive almost 45 minutes to get to the nearest Indian grocery store, and even longer to watch a Bollywood movie in the theater. Soon enough, I realized I was no longer just like everyone else. I suddenly became acutely aware of myself. I had brown skin, hair on my arms and face, and a last name that no one bothered to attempt to spell right. At least I thought my first name wasn't too Indian. I took lessons in an Indian classical dance style, Kathak, but instead of talking about it openly, like how my friends would talk about their hip-hop or ballet classes, I kept quiet. When my friends would come over after school, I was embarrassed when they would see the Indian paintings that adorned our walls or the Hindu deities on our shelves. One fateful day, the universe sent us a sign. Driving down Springfield Avenue, on the right side of the road in a small plaza, we noticed a sight for sore eyes, Neelam Indian cuisine. This didn't just mean that we could now have paneer tikka masala and dal makhani without having to prepare it ourselves. It meant that there were others like us. It took a pretty long chain of events for me to finally accept my culture wholeheartedly. Towards the end of elementary school, 2 new Indian students arrived at my school. One was decidedly more Indian than the other, and I could almost feel the weight of the eyes being lifted off of me and onto him. While he had an equally unpronounceable first and last name, I could tell there was no shame or embarrassment brewing within him when gym teachers and English teachers alike would butcher it. He may have been oblivious to the eyes on him, but he was confident nevertheless. Towards the end of middle school, after having cycled through many different friend groups, I decided to take a page out of his book. I began to unabashedly bring aromatic Indian food for lunch every day, and instead of them wrinkling their noses and deriding the aroma, my new friends would simply not stop saying, "Wow, that smells so good," until I offered them a bite. When I entered high school, though Governor Livingston was not particularly known for its diversity, I was impressed with the effort that was being made into encouraging it. After all, you can't manufacture diversity, you can only enhance whatever is already there. In my freshman year, our principal began a diversity committee, and a few seniors even founded an Understanding Asian Cultures Club. In addition to those, our school began the tradition of having a culture walk, in which student representatives of all the various cultures at GL set up booths with food, games, and artifacts from each one. At the culture walk, I was in awe of the cultural knowledge that my peers seemed to have developed overnight. No one called it chai tea, everyone knew what a bindi was, and almost everyone was eager to try Indian snacks, regardless of the aroma. After the event concluded, I had never felt more comfortable in a school environment than when I was walking the halls armed with a cup of chai, a bindi, and 3 of my closest friends donning the same accessories. Looking back to my younger years, when I was hesitant even to pronounce Hindi words with an Indian accent in front of my white friends, I can only imagine what that version of myself would have thought of me now, confident in my culture and unafraid to spread that culture to others. Though I have been called whitewashed, a coconut, a Kinder bar, basically anything that's brown on the outside and white on the inside, I am proud and relieved to say that I'm now a Hershey Kiss through and through, brown on both the inside and the outside. It may take a few more years of hard work and dedication to diversity to shed our town's unfortunate nickname, but I can tell from just interacting with my peers who have been with me since elementary school that Berkeley Heights collectively has become much more culturally understanding, and I am so glad that diversity has become a tenet that our town has striven for. Although microaggressions may still abound and racism may still seem unending, take it from me, change has been made for the better, so much so that I strongly believe we are on track for our nickname to soon become a misnomer. Thank you.
Right?
That was so very well done. Thank you so much for coming. I didn't know if you want.
I want to know if any of the board members had any questions for Gia.
It's really good.
Anybody have any questions for Gia?
No questions. I just want to say, Gia, job well done. The way you've articulated your thoughts and laid them out so, succinctly, great job.
So very proud. That was great.
Yes, very good. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, Dr. Giordano, you are up.
Super.
Thank you, Dr. Varley. Thank you to the Board of Education for giving me this opportunity to lead the presentation on our district data. As you know, every year in the spring, well, prior to COVID, every year in the spring, our students in New Jersey take a learning assessment against our New Jersey standards to see where they are, what their learning processes are. When COVID hit, for 3 years, that did not happen. In the year of 2020, 2021, the first year they came back, 2 years. The first year it came back was last year in the spring of 2022. The years confuse me still as we go through COVID. What we have here is our last in the spring. Our students took that test, the NJSLA. We also have some AP data in there from the spring as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the administrative team, the principals back here, the supervisors, the directors, for their help in putting this presentation together. They are actually going to present it all. I believe you will be very happy, and this community should be very happy at the strides this district continues to make in its academic achievement. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mr. Marks. Without his technological savviness, I would have picked up my laptop and threw it against the wall about 5 times. So without further ado, Mr. Moore, you're up first.
So good evening. I am here tonight to give a very brief overview of an alternate assessment that is available to some of our students with IEPs. The DLM is designed as a means to assess students with more significant cognitive disabilities for whom the general state assessments are not appropriate, even when individualized accommodations are considered and provided. It is an opportunity for students who fit a very specific 5-point criteria to show what they know and what they can do in the areas of English, math, and science. Similar to the general state assessment, the DLM is a technology-based assessment for students in grades 3 to 8 and in grade 11. It is important to remember that given the criteria, the DLM targets a very small percentage of students who are receiving very extensive, very specialized instruction, typically in a very specialized program in our self-contained settings. As a point of reference, in Berkeley Heights last year, We had 5 students who are in district and 3 students who are in out of district placements who took or participated in the DLM. So we only had 8 students in total participate in that. And that is a cohort size that, as per the state, is too small of a population for us to report out on tonight. A quick note with regards to graduation rates. A recent change to state regulations prior to last school year now states that specific exemptions that may be in IEPs for some students will factor into our graduation rates. In the past, the child study team could determine individual students might be exempt from specific areas that fall under the umbrella of the list that you see there, with regards to exempt from passing, exempt from credits or courses, or exempt from attendance policies. So as an example, you could have a student with an IEP who sits for the state testing, but may be exempt from passing in order to graduate due to the severity of the student's disability. With the regulation change, and I want to make sure I'm very clear on this, it's important to note that if a student does have an exemption within their IEP, they will still earn their diploma, they still do graduate, but an IEP exemption does have a negative, or does now negatively factor into our district data. So as a result of that, we as a department and the district have been taking steps to minimize this impact over the course of the last year, and this will continue moving forward. We're working with the child study team and the administration to explore different ways to support students in an effort to reduce the need for exemption in students' IEPs, but we still want to make sure that we're ensuring that students are provided with the necessary supports to meet all graduation requirements going forward. With that, I am going to turn this over to Mr. Kubliska.
Just real quick, Mr. Mora, just in case anyone, I know you need to go. His son is playing his first football game and his daughter is cheering at the game. So I want to let him go. So does anyone have any questions on the dynamic learning maps so that he can skedoodle out of here? Nope. Okay, you're free to go.
Good evening, everyone. I drew one of the best straws as I only have one slide to present. And my presentation is about the NJSLA overview. So our test scores, which you will see tonight, which we are very proud of the progression that we are making, range from 3rd grade up through 9th grade. And we will present information, mathematics, English language arts, and science. All students are required to take the NJSLA tests in these grades, and those scores come out in the fall after the spring of the tests. We received our test scores from the state this past week, and we will be sending home individual reports to all parents this upcoming week. With that, I turn things over to Mr. Moriso and Mr. DeGonis.
Good evening, everyone. The chart that you see up here on the top is Berkeley Heights. The bottom is the state. And it's not as clear as it was when I was looking at it today on my own screen. So I will do my best to help you understand what you're looking at. What's most important from an educator standpoint, and I would assume from a parent standpoint, are the 2 shades of green on each chart farthest to my right. Each little bar graph represents a grade level, and you have 5 colors: red, orange, yellow, light green, and dark green. Light green and dark green represent the students that are proficient or exceeding levels of proficiencies. So I think it's important to note how many of our students reside in that area compared to that of the state at each grade level. Again, we have Berkeley Heights compared to the state of New Jersey. On the left is Berkeley Heights, on the right is the state of New Jersey. This breaks down grades 3, 4, and 5. These are 3rd graders, 4th graders, and 5th graders from last year. Obviously, the 5th graders now are 6th graders. So those students have moved on. And again, you'll see very clearly the high level of Berkeley Heights students that are in the light green, and a significant number that are in the dark green, and the very, very small numbers that are to the left in the red and orange area as compared to the state of New Jersey.
Here are our middle school numbers. I just want to walk you through our progression at the middle school so we could better understand what we're looking at here. So here's our progression as we go from 5th grade all the way up through 12th grade. All of our 5th grade students will either take the 6th grade test, or they'll either go into 6th grade math, or they'll go into pre-algebra. So those students there from 5th grade moving into 6th grade math, or they're in pre-algebra, will take what you see here as the grade 6 math. So those are the numbers we're looking at. So it's those two classes. So as you can see, like John had said before, we have greater percentage of students in the green, and that's what we want to see. More green, the better. When we get to 7th grade, you'll see our 7th graders are in that pre-algebra class. So that's the numbers we're looking at there for our grade 7 math class. So, whoops. Yeah. So pre-algebra, those students are what we see here in grade 7 math. And again, if you look closely at our numbers for our grade 7 math, we see a higher percentage of green compared to the state average for grade 7 math. So our 7th graders were in the green. 73% of our 7th graders are in the green, as opposed to the state where they're only at 34%. So we're seeing high numbers there. So then we have some 7th graders that are taking Algebra 1. So our Algebra 1 numbers that we're going to see soon are comprised of, if you look closely, you'll see Algebra 1 on the right-hand side that's highlighted. If you look over in the left-hand column, some of our Algebra 1 students are 8th graders in that first progression. They go to 6th, pre-algebra, and then algebra. And then we also see some Algebra 1 students in the blue, which is Governor Livingston. So our numbers here, these Algebra 1 numbers here, are comprised of 7th, 8th grade, and some 9th graders. So again, if you look at our students, we have a lot more in the green compared to the state, which is what we want to see. I believe we have 60% of our students are in the green, as opposed to 35% for the state. So this is just that same slide, everything together. And as John had said before, we're very proud of our amount of green. So if you look at our geometry numbers and our Algebra 2 numbers, this is what we see. So in our geometry numbers, we have some 8th graders taking that geometry number, and we have 9th graders in that geometry number as well. Again, look at the number of students we have in the green compared to what we have in the state. But I want to point out our Algebra 2 numbers. Take a look at those Algebra 2 numbers. We have 95% of our students are in the green, as opposed to what you see from the state level.
This next slide clearly breaks down based on gender. And this is something that is required at the state level, that we demonstrate to our community how we achieve based on gender. We're also required to report by the state to report based on race. And I think what's really important that you can't really see based on these bar graphs is the extensive effort that the district as a whole, and also people at individual buildings put in to ensure that there are no barriers to participation. We make a great deal of effort to make sure that our extracurricular activities, our opportunities for remediation, our opportunities for enrichment. At the elementary level, the board has done a great deal to support and fund interventionists at each building, and also to support enrichment opportunities, using Mr. Clayton in the Heights program, as well as our interventionists to do continental math. So students are given the opportunity to interact with math on many different levels. And the goal is that everyone is included. It's not based on skill. It's not based on economics. It's based on your presence in the building. If you are in the building, we are making an effort to seek you out and give you the opportunity to participate in these activities, whether you're a middle of the road child, a child who needs remediation, or a child who exceeds their grade level expectation and needs opportunity for enrichment. As you can see here, we have broken down our achievement based on several characteristics. Free and reduced lunch, very, very small population. And it's important. One or two students can really impact those bar graphs because it's such a small population. Section 504, those are students who, based on a health need, a medical need, receive some accommodations and some extra supports. And you can see how many shades of green, how many students are represented by shades of green. We have our English language learners. Those are students who English is not their primary language. Special ed, which Mr. Morris spoke briefly about previously, and then our general ed population. Again, just as I spoke to regarding gender and ethnicity, a primary goal of the district is to make sure that there are no barriers to participation, that all children have the same opportunities to receive enrichment, to receive remediation, interact with the subject matter at their level. We meet them where they are to give them similar experiences to everyone else.
These are our cohort groups. So we're comparing apples to apples. For instance, I know it's kind of difficult to see, but if you look at the top line up there, it's 2021, 2022 grade 3 math. And right underneath them is 2022, 2023 grade 4 math. So that is the same group of students. So we saw them in grade 3 and we saw them in grade 4. If you look at the data, here it just kind of blocks it out a little bit, kind of shadows what we're looking at. So we're looking all the way over to the right, and we're able to see some of the growth that the cohort has made. One of the things I want to point out is between grade 5 and 6, we do see there is a decrease in the percentage there. But again, remember, these are students who are going from 5th grade to 6th grade. So they're in that transitional period of time. What is nice to see is when you look at 6th to 7th, you see a big increase of 19%. So there's a nice bounce back there. So whatever we're doing in CMS is definitely working and helping those students. And then this is our data from the high school for Algebra 1. And those Algebra 1 students, so it's Algebra 1 from 8th grade, then entering grade 9, take geometry. And then we have on the bottom, grade 8 math moving over, and some of those students take grade 9 Algebra 2. With that, we'll bring up Jessica Nardi. Oh, do we have any questions?
I do have a question. When we looked at the data, if you don't mind, if you go back to the slide that has the same students' consecutive grades.
This one?
So yeah, if you stay on this for a moment,
Mhm.
where we have, as an example, you have a grade 6 and grade 7 progression where there's an improvement. Those students are now in 8th grade. Is that right? So this is sort of looking students that are starting eighth grade this year and looking 2 years back?
So the 2022-2023 grade 7 math students would now be our current eighth graders.
Current eighth graders,
Yeah.
okay, okay. One more question. This is about the geometry data. I think that was maybe 3 slides back.
This one here?
Yeah, that one. So if I add up the numbers on the left, our geometry numbers are about 53% that are meeting or exceeding. Right? I see the 45% and the light green
45 plus 8,
8%.
yeah.
Right? So the way to think about this is all students taking geometry, be it middle school, be it high school. This is that entire population, middle
Yes.
school plus high school. 53% of that population is meeting or exceeding.
53% are meeting or exceeding, yes.
That's right. Is there a split between, is one group, meaning is CMS doing better than the students in GL? I'm trying to figure, do you have that level of data to then go and think about strategies to help, the other students kind of get up to a better level?
So if you recall, those students that are in eighth grade taking geometry, those would be some of our higher achieving students.
Yeah.
And those are the students that would then be taking Algebra 2 in ninth grade. And if we look at our Algebra 2 numbers, you can see that they're much higher. So that group that took geometry in eighth grade probably did very well on this test.
Right. So I guess my question is, does that mean that the students that are taking geometry in GL, do they need the extra support so that we do better in terms of our meeting and exceeding numbers?
So based off of these points, these data points, we've used this data and other means of data to try and drive some programs that we're going to have at GL to help boost these scores. And that is our new program that we have called EMSTA, where we're having students that are struggling in math and English. They're given an opportunity to help boost up their math skills, to help them later on the NJGPA.
Got it. And then one last question.
Okay.
There was a lot of feedback from parents about the thinking classroom, method of teaching last year that was particularly centered around math. And I wonder if geometry was one of those areas. Any thoughts on, are we continuing with that method of instruction? Are we doing something to help teachers, implement that better?
I may.
Sure.
So one thing that the data has helped us to analyze and look at is our mathematical progression. So when you saw the slide that looks like this, there's a lot going on. And one thing that is a feather in the cap of Berkeley Heights is that our middle school students are being pushed to very high levels of math. All students in Berkeley Heights finish eighth grade with algebra. That is not common in most school districts. In fact, if you look at neighboring school districts such as Chatham or Summit, they end eighth grade with their highest achieving students ending with the algebra test. All of our students take the algebra test at eighth grade. Some might say in the mathematical world that that's something that we need to reflect on and look at, because to your question about geometry results at Governor Livingston, when a student is now in their freshman year or sophomore year taking the test, if one has not developed a strong mathematical foundation, the higher levels of mathematics become much more challenging. So one thing that we're beginning to look at is, should we consider offering our students at Columbia a progression where they take, perhaps like many other school districts, the sixth grade math standards in sixth grade? That's what our students do. But then in seventh grade, just take the seventh grade math standards. And in eighth grade, just take the eighth grade math standards. Again, our students are taking those standards in combination over years. So the eighth grade student is in essence, who takes algebra as an eighth grade student, getting standards in sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, and algebra. So 4 sets of standards over 3 years. Our highest achieving students are receiving 5 years of standards over 3 years. So one thing to look at is for all of our students to provide different pathways to meet success. And frankly, it's a developmentally appropriate thing to question whether or not all of our students are prepared or ready as a mature young man or young woman for 8th grade algebra.
Thanks. I think there's a couple other pieces I'd like to add as well. When you take a look at the total number of students that moved from that cohort from 8th grade to 9th grade, we found there was a significant number less students that tested for geometry as opposed to tested algebra 1. So one of the things we need to consider is the students that chose to leave the district to explore other options. They're removed from that pool in 8th grade. But what I would like to point out also is ask you to recall the August 10th board meeting where we reported the NJGPA scores as well. And what we do is we take this data and we develop programming, we develop targeted supports, we have data meetings with our teachers, and our teachers do an amazing job. And one of the things I would like to point out is by the time we got them to junior year on the NJGPA and the math portion this year, Governor Livingston High School students scored 49% above state average. So I think there's a big difference compared to see where we have them, where some of this starts once, some of the resettling that occurs once students arrive at Governor Livingston to where we get them by the end of their junior year. I think that shows a lot of growth, and I think it shows great use of the data and the tools that we have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I'll now introduce Ms. Scott and Ms. Nardi, who will present our ELA information.
Okay. Okay. So I know it's a little bit hard to see from back there, all the colors, but basically this slide is the same as what the math slide reflected. Across the top are the Berkeley Heights grades 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 literacy results, and on the bottom are the state results. Again, green is good. You'll see there's a lot of green there. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the 3, 4, 5, and Mrs. Scott will address the 6 through 9. Okay, so in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we're particularly proud of our literacy results. We've had a pretty strong teacher training program in reading over the past few years, as you probably recall from the past board meetings. And I think those results are starting to show up now in our test results. The teachers are super comfortable with the reading and writing workshop approach, and they're able to impart the strategies that we've learned through the past 3 years of training. In addition, just looking to the future, we are being responsive to some of the needs of the district, and we are this year starting to work on our word study program. So hopefully that will also have a positive impact as we move through. Oh.
Sorry, I need to go back. There you go. Thank you. I know you can't read these, so I wrote them down so I could tell you. What you have here is 6, 7, 8. On the left is the district. On the right are the state numbers. And if you look at the green, the 2 columns of green that are meeting and exceeding, take 6th grade, our total there is 74. The state is 47. For 7th grade, our total is 87, the state is 56. And for 8th grade, our total is 84 and the state is 56. So similar to what Ms. Nardi said, we're very pleased with how the district has done in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And there you go. And that's 9th grade. In the case of 9th grade, we were at 79, I believe, and I didn't write down the state, sorry. So again, if you look at those numbers, very pleased with the numbers we've achieved, both compared to the state and given the fact that the last few years have been a lot of recovery. The next 3 slides are similar to what you saw in math. They will break up. Yes.
The next two slides will break up for gender, race, and specialized programs. This first being gender. This one again is race, similar to what was done for math. And the specialized programs. These slides, which again, I'm sorry, are hard to see, give us cohort groups going from third grade all the way through ninth grade, how they scored in the previous year and now the current year. And again, it's really hard to tell, but what you've got there is almost entirely green. Every group went up with the exception of seventh graders who became eighth graders who laid flat at 84%. But again, at 84%, very pleased with those numbers. So no complaints there. And the second slide just highlights it. But again, I know you can't see much of that. Questions? Mom, we're cool too, just like.
Okay, thank you.
Me and John did not draw the short straw. This is the NJ SLA science. And if you notice, it's a little different than what you saw in math or English. It's not going by grade 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way up. You're just looking at a grade 5 science test, a grade 8 science test, and a grade 11 science test. And we also changed a couple things around because we're scientists. We changed the red to mean minimal, yellow means limited, and then again, we want to see green. So green is always best. So the grade 5 science test is grading on or testing on standards from K through 5. Our 8th grade test is looking at standards from 6 through 8. So where before we might have had just standards for grade 3 or grade 4, here we're looking at a large chunk of standards. So these are not easy tests. Our grade 11 science test consists of questions with biology, earth science standards, and physical science standards. So again, not easy tests. But when you look at the green on Berkeley Heights, it's much higher than what we see at the state level. So for grade 5 science, 54% of our students are in the green, as opposed to 27% in the state. For grade 8, we have 40% of our students are in the green, but that's compared to 18 in the state. And then we look at grade 11, you're looking at 56% of our students are in the green as compared to 30% in the state. So when you look at these numbers comparing Berkeley Heights to the state average, we're doing really, really well in our sciences.
And just as we mentioned previously with math and language arts, the state requires us to break down our female students and our male students. And I think what's really important to understand is, as I mentioned with math, the Board of Education has done a great deal to support our students through our Heights program, not only targeting students who exceed grade level expectations to take part in a pullout G&T program, but also since that person who provides the STEAM, Mr. Clayton, is a staff member now, he spends a great deal of time pushing into individual classrooms, doing lessons at the grade level, but also participating with our computer teacher, our art teacher, and our IMC instructor, Mrs. Rodano, to help students of all abilities and all backgrounds have the opportunity to apply science concepts to their regular day in their special area classes. We also have a relationship with FISERV that conducts a program at Lucid. Sorry. think I've been here long enough. I should know that. The Connell complex. So any student who has the interest can apply for that. And I know that many of our students have really benefited from participating in that. And I think that helps children across the board, not only our highest achievers, but students of all levels, all abilities who just have the interest, who want to participate. And just as in with math and language arts, we break down specialized programs, students who are receiving free and reduced lunch, have a 504 plan, receive IEP accommodations, or students who are in our gen ed population. We work really hard to make sure that they do not experience any barriers to participation. And I think that serves our community really well.
This year, we're also piloting Open SciEd in the elementary schools. So we have Open SciEd already in the middle school. This year, we're piloting the Open SciEd program in the elementary school, which will just help us with our students in their sciences. Here is that same, this is a little bit different. We can't go by cohorts in the science because they're taking different classes. So when we're looking at this 2021, 2022 grade 5 students is compared to 2022, 2023 grade 5 students, because there was no other test. It wasn't like a grade 3 test and then a grade 4 test. So when you're looking at these numbers, we're looking at different students. And again, what you see here is our district is about the same from grade 5 from one year to the next. The next year in grade 8, we actually saw an increase of 8% of our students doing better on this test. And then same thing in grade 11, the students increased 9% between those two different levels. But again, we have programs like Open SciEd in the elementary school now, Open SciEd in the middle school, and then we have a whole host of AP exams that our students are taking at GL. Any questions on science?
Yes. What is the Open SciEd program? Could you elaborate a little bit?
So Open SciEd is the program we have at the middle school where there's a lot more hands-on activities, a lot more phenomena-based inquiry type science stuff, and that just works well with the New Jersey state science standards, which are based on the next generation science standards. So Open SciEd has created this whole program around those standards. They started in the middle school, and now they've created a similar format for elementary schools. So we're piloting those programs with Open SciEd. We were one of a few school districts that actually was asked to or got accepted to be a pilot program, and we're really proud of that.
And I think on the side, what's important to understand is Mr. Clayton, who's our Heights program director at the K-5 level, formerly was a science teacher at the middle school. And we all know Mr. Finley, who's the principal at MKM, who has a little bit of interest in science from his previous existence. Those two gentlemen have taken the reins of the Open SciEd program at the elementary level and are organizing the teachers for special trainings and workshops to really make sure that we're getting the most out of this program as we possibly can.
Thank you.
How many years has the NJSLA required science to be part of their testing?
I don't know.
It's not very many.
Not
is
very
it?
long. I believe it's, and the reason why I don't know is because they kept jumping back and forth. It used to be only a bio test, then it was only a physics test, and they got rid of the science, and then they brought in, I think it's only 3 years, I believe.
Right.
We had 5th grade science testing in NJS. So that's going backwards.
We had the 5th grade science in the NJS, but now with the NJSLA, yeah.
I think it's only a few years.
Only a couple years. So
Yeah.
we're still building our skills in this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And yes, they do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rob Nixon, and I'm here to report on the AP exams at GL. Before I move forward, I just want to pause for 1 second and acknowledge Gia for doing an amazing job of their presentation tonight. It's not an easy thing to do for experienced adults, and I think to hear a student come up and present the way she did is incredible. She's very impressive, and I would also like to add, part of why the culture is developing at such a great rate at GL is because of the great work of students, a lot of our students, including Gia. So she should give herself a little bit of credit too. So thank you, Gia. Great job tonight. So I have a couple slides to share with an analysis of our AP program. Our AP program continues to be an area of strength at Governor Livingston High School. Bless you. We see that this year, after having a brief dip in participation post-pandemic, we're happy to see that we're back over 800 total exams. If you go back and looked at this for going back about a decade, we were at a point in our program where we had just over 500 AP exams that were taken. We've managed to grow our program by 60% over that time. I remember in my first year as the principal at Governor Livingston in 2015, I had the opportunity to attend the school board's convention, and I attended a presentation by a school district who talked about growing their AP program and maintaining great scores. And the numbers within their program was they grew participation by 100 students, and their passing rate only went from 74% to 67%, and that was exceptional. And so they presented at school boards. I'd like to point out that we've grown our program by 60%, and our passing rate continues to get better. If you look back at those times when I said over the course of that decade, the rate was in the low 80%, and you see we've hit a high water mark of just over 90%, and we're still in the high 80s, 88.45% of our students scored at least a 3 on 1 AP exam last year, which is an exceptional performance by our students and by our teachers. Just to take a look at it, this is if you take a look at it by test, the important thing to see in this graph across the bottom there, we have every one of our AP programs that our students can be involved in here. At the top of the chart is 85%. The number below that is 75%. Right in the middle is 50% and on down. And you can see the majority of our programs do very, very well, with 7 or 8 of our programs having a 100% passing rate. And we have several teachers at our school that have had 100% passing rates with their students for consecutive years. So the AP program is strong at GL, and our students continue to excel and achieve there and end up having the opportunity to leave Governor Livingston High School with a lot of college credits potentially in their pocket, which is a great thing for mom and dad. And as I mentioned before, 88.45 to be exact was the number of students that scored at least a 3 on 1 AP exam of our 277 test takers. I think that's our last slide. Any questions regarding the AP program at Governor Livingston?
Rob, the prior slide, that's current enrollment for 2023. So this year's school year, or is that?
This is the results of last year's assessment, the assessment that students took in the beginning of May.
Sorry, on the slide before this that has total AP students for 2023, that's the current school year?
No, 2023 was the spring administration of the AP exams.
Okay. Is it too soon to know numbers for 24 or
yeah, it's too soon. Registration is happening, at this time. We'll probably have a good idea of the number of students who register by the time we get to mid-October, end of October. And then some of that levels as the school year goes out. Some people decide to step away and maybe not test. But that College Board changed their process probably going back a few years now. The students used to register for the AP exam in March. They'd have kind of an idea to gauge how they were doing in the class and see what their chances of passing the assessment were before they spend their money. Now the College Board wised up to that, and they now have you register at the beginning of the school year, at the beginning of the course.
Spend our money.
Yeah, right. You can get your money back at a 50% discount if you choose.
Great. Thanks.
Any other questions? Great, thank you.
I want to thank the administrative team and Dr. Giordano. They have spent a great deal of time, and Jeremy Marks is a whiz with Google Slides. It was amazing to watch today, just cut and paste, and things were moving and shaded, and it was a great adventure. But I want to thank you so much for your hard work and showcasing what our amazing students and teachers are doing here. And we're recovering well from the pandemic. We still have some work to do, but it's very exciting to see what our students are doing. And that is the end of the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Varley. Okay, we'll move on. Okay, moving on to committee and liaison reports. Any of those?
Yes. I have the report as the liaison to the town council. The community will hold a flag raising ceremony at Town Hall flagpole on Friday, September 15th, in recognition of Hispanic Heritage Month. There is also a blood drive going on for the Berkeley Heights Volunteer Rescue on September 22nd. The town continues to work on improving and updating their sewer system with a check of $750,000 from the state. And then additional monies were found this week. We'll receive $400,000 to reduce the Passaic River and flooding issues around Riverbend and Chaucer Drive. There's a town flu clinic being held on September 21st, and the Berkeley Heights annual 5K run will be held on Sunday, September 17th. Refer to the town website for any of these events and street paving and library and community events. And September is restaurant month in town, supporting our local town establishments. The Recreation Committee is going to be meeting next week on Thursday, September 21st at 7:30 on Zoom. They want to let us know also that Union County is taking over some of the fields and parks in Berkeley Heights. The field maintenance and scheduling will now be handled by the county. The Union County Educational Service Commission met last week on Wednesday, September 6th, and we saw an update of services provided by the principal of Westlake School. I have no other updates on other liaison, and that concludes my report.
Okay, any more committee or liaison reports? Go on, Pam.
All right, so the curriculum meeting met on September 6th. We had a great meeting talking about one of our new classes, cybersecurity, just getting an update on how the class is going and enrollment and how we're going to keep, enrollment up in this course. It's a half-year course for our 9th to 12th graders. We moved on to rebranding of courses in our engineering and design classes. They're looking at our classes are a little bit outdated in some of their descriptions, so they don't look as enticing. So some of the wording just needs to be updated to what we currently use. And so just trying to draw more interest to our students and what we actually have to offer for engineering. And one of the concerns is that our female enrollment is lower in some of these classes. You're thinking like woodworking and stuff like that, where you might think this is more male oriented, but these classes do offer a lot. And so we're going to try to improve female enrollment by trying to rebrand some of these classes, but also, publicizing them and making sure that people know about them and what the class actually offers. And I know Catherine has done a lot to help our director of STEAM over the summer. So she keeps going with Berkeley Heights Public Schools and making it better. She spent her summer before college working with us to try to show how we can improve our female enrollment in some of these classes like robotics and woodworking. We're going to continue with Beyond the School Day, which is really, really great. It gives so many opportunities to our students. So we're excited about that. We also have our word study program has arrived. We've received materials. The teachers have been trained. So we are just at the very beginning of putting this into our classes and finding where we can use these tools this year. And then over the next summer, we'll write the actual curriculum for them. So our teachers have been trained and they are starting to use these in the classrooms, which we're really excited about. And then we also have this really great program that we're looking to get approved tonight. It's the New Jersey Learning Acceleration Program, which is a high impact tutoring grant. This is really exciting because it focuses on our 3rd and 4th graders who are struggling. So these are small groups that will get together and work in whatever area that they are in most need. And this would be a grant from the government. And so it would be really, really great for our students to really get the kids that were most impacted by COVID and other things. So we're really hoping that we can get this grant. So please approve it tonight and they can get the paperwork due the 20th. Thank you.
Anybody else have any committee or liaison Reports? No. Okay, so I have a couple. So I attended the Berkeley Heights Education Foundation meeting on Tuesday, September the 12th for their kickoff meeting. And they do actually have a link on our website. And if you click on menu, the link is actually under resources, and you can actually get to their actual website. They sent a report for me, and they asked me to read it out tonight for some of the stuff that they're actually doing. They wanted me to talk about the Student Grant to Wish program. And they mentioned that we have extended our reach for grants to allow students to share their wishes for something that would enhance their educational experience. This is open to all grades, and we would love to hear from the kids what is important to them and review each submission for consideration to incorporate for their school in the district. There is a link on the website where students can easily apply for a wish on the top by clicking Apply for a Student Wish. Applications are due by December 15, 2023, and winners will be announced on January 12, 2024. They said they kicked this program off last year, and they wanted to just give some examples of some of the success. So the examples of wishes already approved and in action are Environmental Day, Gaga Pit for gym class and recess, bird feeder for the school garden, 3D printer for the STEM program, and a telescope to be used in partnership with the Berkeley Heights Public Library astronomy program. They wanted me to talk to you about reinforcing teacher grants. They said, we're excited to see many new faces to join faculty of our school district. A reminder to reach out to the BHEF to submit grant applications that give teachers and administration the opportunity to support innovative and creative educational programs and technology, Berkeley Heights Public Schools. The process has been simplified and is reviewed on a rolling basis. Please encourage them to get their ideas together and submit their application for a grant that will support the kids in our school. The information and application can be found on our website on the top by clicking Apply for a Grant. And they wanted us to stay tuned for information on the upcoming basketball event, which is scheduled for November the 14th. And they wanted us to reach out to encourage teachers to sign up. So that includes my report on that. The other report I have is a committee report on the Technology and Communications Committee. We met yesterday, Wednesday the 13th. There was a technology audit update. George Giardelli from Fortune Consulting and Dr. Giordano led the discussion regarding the technology audit. We went over that, and then we discussed next steps. There was also a website update. There was great feedback from parents saying that the new website is extremely user-friendly and everybody's so much happier. I know there was a minor glitch where when it first went live, but that was sort of taken care of within 24 hours. I've also had great feedback about the app. Everybody's very happy about it. It's so easy to use. And I know that the PTOs are thrilled because for years they've been wanting the calendar digital, and now we finally got it. So they're very, very excited about that. There was also a security update needs that was discussed. And the discussion was about additional security updates and needs. And Dr. Giordano is going to reach out to some vendors to get some quotes. And that concludes my report of the technology and communication update. So moving on. Board communication, Mr. Smith.
Yes, I had one communication from a citizen expressing some concerns about the increase in class size for the 23-24 school year.
Okay. And do you have a business administration report? Administrative report?
I have a brief one. Yes, I only got here the week before last. So, but we did meet in a finance committee meeting, and I was directed to do a request for proposal RFP for architectural services, architect of record, and I did, and it will be in the paper tomorrow. So the way it works out, you will be getting a recommendation for the November board meeting.
Okay. All right. And that brings us to the portion of the public comment section. So I'm going to read. Okay. During this portion of the meeting, district residents and staff are invited to address the Board of Education on agenda action items only. The board requests that individuals state their name and town of residence or school of attendance for the record. All comments should be directed to the board president, and depending on the nature and complexity of the question, it may or may not be answered during the meeting by the administration. If so, the response would occur after this public portion of the meeting has concluded. Although the board may not respond to all items raised during the public forum, all public comments will be considered. The board asks that members of the public be courteous and mindful of the rights of other individuals when speaking. Specifically, comments regarding personnel matters are discouraged and cannot be responded to by the board. Students and employees have specific legal rights afforded by the law of New Jersey. The board bears no responsibility, nor will be liable for any comments made by members of the public. Please note that if any member of the public becomes disruptive during the meeting, the board president may terminate participant's statement. Continued disruptions may result in removal from or adjournment of the meeting. Each speaker's statement will be limited to 3 minutes in duration. So anybody who has any comments on the agenda items, could you please come up to the podium?
Good evening. Natasha Jolly, 60 Orion Road. So agenda items, I'm going to ask about some policy updates, right, as that is on the agenda. So there are a number of policy changes that are proposed that are not mandatory but may impact elections. So questions like why now, why not before the prior election? So given that I am one of those candidates, I do have some clarifying questions. For policy 0141, does this policy even apply? So there is a policy 0141.2, which is a policy that would apply to a receiving district, which I believe we are. So regardless, can you make clear what is meant by next election? So if we're at a point in time today, in the policy, does next election mean November 2023 election or November 2024 election? And also what is meant by the very last statement that says any vacancy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Policy 0143, what is meant by improper campaign practices? Who decides this? Is there a law outlining this? I mean, as a candidate, does speaking here constitute, as an improper campaign practice? Policy 0148 talks about, BOE member doing something in the course of board business. Again, is filing an ethics complaint against a fellow BOE member in the course of board business. And does that mean that legal fees would be supported then? Okay, so I think those are my policy questions. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on agenda items?
Hi, Saibar Kitty. On policy 2419, I guess that's up for first reading, threat assessment. Is the threat assessment policy only for students? And once we have this new policy in place, how can we, the public, be assured that this will not be extended to parents, staff, or anyone? Are you willing to amend it with such language before you go ahead and approve this? On the agenda, I think I see an appointment for assistant principal at GL, which happens to be Mr. Dagunas. My question is, at the last board meeting, the board approved for a mathematics mentor and said that the money was going to come from a grant. And if we are going ahead and appointing him to be an assistant principal, what's happening to the grant money and the mathematics mentor? Also, the resolution for the assistant principal does not have a start date for Mr. Dagunas. So, and it says that the salary is going to be prorated. So how are we going to prorate a salary if you don't have a start date? Now coming down to QSAC, I think we were told last year multiple times by the superintendent that we need to pass these policies, otherwise we're going to get a reduction, we need to get at 100%. And I see that we have two QSAC program percentages at 87 and 86. The 87% for instruction and program, and the 86% is for fiscal management. So I would like to know what exactly caused our percentage to drop on fiscal management and instruction and program. And I think I heard the business administrator mention an RFP. I didn't hear what the RFP was for.
Architectural services, I did mention.
Thank you. I couldn't hear it, sorry. Also on the technology committee update, I would like to know if we are going to, we were told, I think about 4 months ago, that we will get an update on enabling remote participation by parents via Zoom. And I know we spent a lot of money. We moved the location from CMS to GL. And it's been, I think, a couple years now. And we are still at GL. We don't have remote participation ability. So are you planning to open it up for parents? If not, then why don't we switch back to CMS? Because here, the presentation, you guys should have come and sat there for like 45 minutes. We couldn't see anything, whatever was being presented. And it's been the same thing for every presentation. So if you're not planning to enable Zoom remote participation for parents, we might as well move back to CMS. Thank you.
Anybody else? Please come up. Agenda items only.
Hi, I'm Karin Sicoli, 49 Climb Place. I have two kids in the school system, one at CMS and one at GL. And I heard from both principals, Kobliska and Nixon, on how well we're doing statewide with the testing. But I'm curious to know, how are we doing competitively with Milburn, Chatham, Summit, Madison, the more competitive districts in the district? Because from what I've heard, we are spending close to $20,000 per student, but we're delivering the lowest end results. So the value for the taxpayers or the stakeholders, parents like us, we're just a little bit curious about that. We are happy that we're doing better than the state on a whole, but we want to be doing better than the surrounding communities as well.
Thank you. Anybody else? No. So Dr. Varley or Dr. Jones, do you have any answers for any of those questions?
So I can address the policy portion as much as I can. So 0141, the reason we still have that is because we currently have that policy. We did have 0141.2 on the agenda, but we pulled it because of a code question. We did get the answer to the code question. So it's, according to Strauss Esme, it's fine to be put on the next agenda. But we have to have some policy in place. We can't abolish it without having another policy in place. So 0141.2 would take 2 readings. As soon as that policy is in place, then 0141 would be abolished. As far as what the next election means, so what that process happened, let's just say that I was a board member and I got sick and had to resign. Then the board would have to pick someone until the next election. So someone would sit in my seat as a board member until the next election, and they would have to run. This does not impact this upcoming election unless someone from the board that's sitting here now happened to resign. So this policy only addresses if you choose someone to fill a seat in the interim before another election. Just hopefully that makes sense. 2419 is by code, and that is for students only. It is a law. There's nothing we can do to change that. As far as Dennis DeGunis and his mentor, he will be in this position. That's the reason you have TBD on the agenda until we can find a replacement. We cannot leave math and science open without a person in that position to run that department. So we have Jim Schreiger, who is the interim assistant principal right now. He will fill that role until we have someone board approved and we have the 60-day contract notice that they have to give. So his salary, there will be a revised agenda at our board meeting, when we know someone is coming in, that will prorate his salary at that time. As far as QSAC, the 87%, I don't remember which one was which, but in curriculum instruction, the DOE gives scores based on progress and growth. And because we were already at the high end of growth, we did not receive all of those points. As far as the business office, I cannot remember. I do believe there was some kind of monthly report issue. Other than that, I don't know the answer to that question. Remote participation is Angela. And as far as the test scores against, comparing them against Milburn, Chatham, and Summit, only the district scores have come out. So we only right now have access to us and the state. The other scores will come out. Rob, I know he's here somewhere. Is Rob still here? He's up the back. Do you know when those come out? I think it's in the spring when they start comparing us to other districts. So we do not have that information right now.
Robert, do you have any updates on policy? Did you want to
I
just
wouldn't
add?
say updates. I think she did a great
Do you
job,
want, yeah,
but
do you want to just,
maybe
anything
I
you
can
want to
add.
add?
Yeah, for 143, I don't know. I think this was asked regarding improper campaign practice. We've checked with Just Esme. That's the legal subscription service that creates this based on New Jersey code. There's no legal definition. Who gets to make the decision that a quote improper campaign practice was followed? And the answer is the Commissioner of Education after a petition is filed alleging improper campaign practices. The question was posed to Strauss Esme, was this particular change to the policy made at the recommendation of Strauss Esme? They weren't exactly sure of that meaning of that question in terms of what it was referring to, but the language is verbatim from New Jersey statutes annotated 18A 12-15. In terms of the timing, I think Dr. Varley addressed that pretty well and that it has nothing to do with this fall election. But if you want a more overarching answer, it's trying to update the bylaws before December 31st when I'll be off the board. And if you want a preview, this email is in my schedule folder, Dr. Varley and committee team. I noticed the only other bylaws that are rather older, policies 172 and 173. Kindly inquire from Strauss Esme if there are newer ones. I'd like to put these last two on the agenda for next month in October to the extent they need updating. So that should be the last two. So my point is it's part of a larger project, from my perspective, to make sure we go through everything and update them. Some of the ones discussed tonight or asked tonight were, I want to say, between 22 and 23 years old. I think the ones next week are only 12 years old. So we're making progress. Bear in mind, we've only had the policy committee in this district for a little under 2 years. So we're getting there. We're making way. And I just want to leave the board knowing at a minimum, the bylaws governing the board itself, as opposed to the rest of the district, are updated. So I think you'll see two new ones next time. One other point, I reached out to Angela. One of the questions I asked you was, I just want to confirm Madison, who's also a receiving district, has both the generic 141 and the 141.2. 141 is generic, 141.2 is supposed to be for receiving districts like we are, like Madison is. I just want to confirm that we should abolish 141. That is, I want to confirm that 141.2 does not actually supplement 141 and that they work together. I see them as redundant. You make a choice, it's one or the other. And we were planning on, as Dr. Brawley mentioned, abolishing 141.
I forwarded that information. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The information that you sent to me, I forwarded that on to the attorney to look at, to make sure. And as soon as I get back that information from them, I will reach out to you with that.
Okay.
And give you the clarification.
Thank you.
But it was forwarded. to the
Thank you.
attorneys
Thank
to double check. All right. With regards to the question to Zoom, we haven't addressed that in a while, so my suggestion would be to put that on the agenda for the next technology and communications meeting, because it hasn't been discussed. So we would have to put that on the agenda and have that discussion again and determine where we want to do, if we want to move forward and how we want to move forward. So that will be to be determined. All right. The agenda items. Minutes, I would like a motion to approve the minutes, which is resolution A to all board members. And the minutes are for the executive session from August 10th and for regular session minutes from August 10th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No?
On the exec session minutes, I just want to point out, we never had a vote on sending that letter to Mr. Lewis. So I don't regard that. Yeah, it's minutes though.
We're not allowed to
You
vote in
cannot
executive
discuss-
session except for tenure charges.
Right. So in other words, I have to question whether we actually approved sending that letter. If we didn't.
Tom,
You're talking about executive session.
you are referencing
Exec-
substantive discussions from
Right.
closed session, which is confidential and cannot be referenced in public
Well,
session. If you have a question, please relay it to the board president privately. Or vote no if you think the minutes are inappropriate or they're not accurate. You can vote no on them.
So your view is I can't say anything about these minutes.
In public, you cannot say
Correct.
anything about those minutes in public,
Are they ever going to be released?
other than that you think that they might be inaccurate, in which case you can relay that comment. But as far as any commentary regarding how they should be made accurate, you should email them to the board president or the business administrator.
And
Thank you, Francis.
you did actually get a copy of the executive session minutes prior to the
Yes, I
meeting.
did.
Okay, so just want to clarify that you actually have had those. No more discussion? Can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Smith?
Ms. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli,
Yes.
Dr. Forger,
This is just on exec session minutes? Or
Both.
both?
it's about both.
Okay, no on the exec session and yes on the regular minutes.
Okay, Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Ms. Kahana,
Yes.
Ms. Stanley,
Yes.
and Ms. Penner.
Yes. Okay, amend appointments. I would like a motion to approve resolution A, all board members. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
do we have any discussion? Okay, if there's no discussion. Can I have a roll call, please, Mr. Smith?
Ms. Bradford,
Yes.
Ms. Chanchuli,
Yes.
Dr. Forger,
Yes.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Ms. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Stanley,
Yes.
Ms. Penner.
Yes. Moving on to administration. I'd like a motion to approve resolution A through H, all board members, and resolution I, Berkeley Heights only. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
is there any discussion? Go ahead, Robert.
I believe in terms of E, professional development, I'm not sure at this particular time whether the STEM National Convention, October 25th through 28th, for $1,600, nor the fall conference, mathematics fall conference, and TNJ, apparently, I think. That's October 20th. I think that should either be tabled or just perhaps if it's not, I'm gonna vote no, because it appears that perhaps at this point in time, a different administrator might go in the future instead.
Okay, any more discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Connor? Oh, I'm sorry. Go, Mr.
You called on
Dr.
her.
Forager.
You called on her. Go ahead.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Okay. This is the policy revision that's happening for 143. It's what I had communicated earlier. I'm not sure the reason why we are going with the changes that are being proposed in light of the fact that there is no legal definition of what is improper campaign practice. And my understanding is that this is not the mandatory policy. This is where we have the leeway as a district to use the words and the phrases that make sense. So I'm trying to figure why we would want to move away from the established policy.
Do you want to answer, Robert?
I think we're updating the established policy pursuant to our legal subscription service. To be clear, no member of the policy committee or anyone else changed any word that Strauss Esme sent us. And I did address the definitions and how campaign practices and things like that are, there has to be a filing, et cetera. So we did get some clarity, and not every phrase in policy is going to be defined, and Strauss Esme confirmed that. So it's, I don't know, we already had it. It's not a new policy. We're just keeping it up to date.
Right, but just to be clear, we are, free to change the guidance or whatever recommendation is coming from Strauss Esme. Is that fair for policies that are not marked mandatory?
I don't want to answer that in an overarching way that way. Maybe, I don't know if Francis does, but certainly that's not what we've been doing, unless there's something unique about our district.
If you notice on the bottom of every policy, it'll have NJSA 18A. This one, in fact, has NJSA 18A 12-11. I don't have my glasses on, 18A 12-15. It was up, last time it was updated is January 2010. All of our policies, well, the majority of our policies, I will say there's some of our policies that were made up, but these policies previously, these policies are all according to code. So we must adhere to code in any of our policies. I know myself, I've seen board members be brought up on campaign issues. It's usually to deal with finances, but it's someone from the public bringing up an issue. It's generally not the board itself.
I get that. It just that what bothers me is that there is no definition. We seem to be moving to, it's a very narrow definition. We're moving from what I think the words are improper election practice to improper campaign practice. That is a significant shift. And I'm just asking the question, do we understand why we're making that change? And Francis would love to kind of get, some of this sort of word clarification from a legal standpoint, if you have an opinion.
So there are so many policies, as you know, right? Policies, bylaws that you have on the website that are updated all the time by vendors such as Strauss Esme. And when you look at a lot of these policies or bylaws, typically, and as Dr. Varley was mentioning, if you look at the bottom, they'll reference the particular code provisions or statutory reference that's really guiding the policy. And a lot of it, when you look at the statutes or the regulations, sometimes they're almost verbatim, like they're just pulling it out. I think that policies and those bylaws, when you have a lot of that, are more accessible to the public than having them go through a statute book or a regulation book. So really, these statutes and the bylaws rather, and the policies are mirroring that which is already in state law, but making it just more accessible to the public. As far as this one particular, and so to answer your question about can you modify them? Sure, you have to make sure that they're always going to be right within the law and that they're going to follow those code and statutes. You're going to spend a lot of time and money and legal expenses if you want to essentially have our office or a lawyer review every single one and go through those code provisions. Strauss Esme offers that opportunity where they've done a lot of that work and they have like this uniformity across school districts. But can you make modifications for each one? Sure. Has the board sent it, let's say, to our office or for review on particular issues? Of course. So could you? Yeah, certainly. But it's probably going to be within the framework that's already developed under the law. So we can probably look to see whether or not we can wordsmith here and there. But ultimately, if you're going to, let's say, enforce a policy or bylaw, you're going to go through what the law already requires. It's going to be interpreted based upon the case law and the statutes. Your policy is not really going to be the only thing that's going to guide you, but you're going to look at your policy with the review and under that gloss of what the law already requires. I don't know if that was helpful, but
Somewhat.
you can modify it, but I will have to look at this if you'd want me to do so. But I don't know if you're gonna get much variation in what our office or another office would produce, because it's going to be within the confines of this law that's already here.
Madam President, if Angela. Over, it's Santa, it's me over here. If I could just chime in too, I'm sorry. I just, maybe this will answer your question for you. When it comes to campaign, a local board of ed or town council, they don't oversee. So no one on this, if you're running for board of ed, no board members will oversee. It would have to be a private citizen. The role as a private citizen, if they feel you did something wrong in a campaign, they would go to the election. It's the election law commission. And that's
Yeah,
all
that-
through the
yeah,
state. Yeah,
and-
that's, I just want to make sure like
Right,
like
and-
the board can't do that. or-
I'm not bothered about sort of the board. This was, just looking and reading the language. Sorry, Tom, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if you can give me some examples for those of us that are looking to engage in this kind of practice.
What might be?
Let's say I wanted to engage in improper campaign practice, what would I have to do?
I don't think that's for us to say, right? There has to be a filing by the public at an office. I don't have an example. We don't adjudicate that.
You don't know of any examples of this, do you know of any examples of this ever being applied? Where somebody was kept off a board for this reason?
No, personally, I have not.
So, I just want to thank the policy committee. I know how much work it is to read all of these. And we finally got through the majority of ones we had to update. And now we are going into the ones that we can update finally, because we have a little bit of time. So I do want to thank you for that. Again, I really want our time to be spent on what's going to help our students, right? This is about, right, a campaign and somebody else, and we don't even get to make the decisions on what is proper and not proper. So I would much rather spend our time talking about what can affect our students and their futures.
Can I ask one quick follow-up to Robert's question? If we vote yes on professional development details, can that transfer to someone else to receive that PD day or days if we make a change to a specific role? Are we approving for this specific person, or are we approving that trip that?
There we go. It would be for that specific person. Yep.
If I can make a suggestion, why don't you make it for the title of the position?
Okay, we could do, we do have it in, everyone puts everything in frontline in a system. But as long as we can figure that out, and I'm looking at you, as long as we can figure that out, I'm fine with that.
You would amend the resolution to refer to the position specifically as being authorized to participate in those PD opportunities.
Okay, so when we vote, we would.
So there are a lot of PDs on there, like there's teachers, it's not just one individual. I think they're addressing one individual in one position, but I think that could get messy.
I think you can make a resolution to modify it with respect to that particular professional development so that it is tailored to that position.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is triggered by one specific request, but it actually, it's an interesting thought for in general, because some of these are for like the spring, so you never know.
But you could always at a later date go back and modify the resolution so you can replace somebody or,
So your suggestion is just do roll call?
It does.
I don't know exactly how to word the amendment though.
Is there any more discussion?
I would like to make a motion to amend attachment
Where is it?
B
Yeah.
for the NJSTA STEM National Conference to be for the title of the position.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm not going to ask if there's any more discussion. So do we have a roll call for all of it?
First, the amendment.
Just, so we're gonna have a roll call for the amendment. Mr. Smith?
Yes. Ms. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. Chantrulli,
Yes.
Dr. Forger,
Yes.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Ms. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Stanley,
Yes.
Mrs. Penna.
Yes. Okay, and if there's no more discussion on the actual, what was it, education, what was it? Administration, can we have a roll call for that, please?
Ms. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. Chantrulli, Dr. Forager,
Okay, on policy 143, no, but yes on the rest of the policies. We're just voting on A, right? Or are we doing all of these?
All of them.
All of
Um,
them?
Mr. Smith,
Wait,
Mr.
wait a minute.
you're voting
Oh,
on all.
okay, wait a minute. Okay,
Mr.
so on
Chichely
the
didn't-
policies, no on 143, yes on the other policies.
I wrote that down. I got
Okay, then no on E and yes on the other letters.
no on E.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Chinchulli didn't cast his vote. Mr. Chinchulli?
Mr. Chantrulli.
Yes to all.
Oh, that's from my out. Mr. Hyman,
Yes on items A through H.
say that again, please.
Sure. Yes on items A through H, like hamburger.
Okay. Ms. Stanley,
Yes to all.
Ms. Penna.
Yes. Okay, moving on to,
I have
oh, he didn't, sorry,
Tikana.
Mrs. you didn't-
Ron, you didn't call my name.
It's not on this, it's not on this list. Okay, I'm sorry. What's her name?
Mrs. Khan?
Connor, I did ask for Connor, yes.
So sorry,
I'm sorry, I thought you voted.
No, that's okay. No for policy 143, yes to everything else.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did all the board members get to vote? Just checking. All right, moving on to education. I'd like a motion to approve resolution A through H, all board members. Do I have a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? No? Okay, if there
I do
isn't
have
any,
one- Sorry, Angela, I do
sorry.
have one question. This is, I think this is item H. I'm curious if do we get some sort of a matching state, federal funding for that?
No, we did happen to have IDEA funds that we used for this. This was a student that moved into town and we're required to educate them elsewhere.
any more discussion? If there's no more discussion, can we have a roll call, Mr. Smith, please?
Ms. Bradford,
Yes.
Mr. Chantrulli,
Yes.
Dr. Forger,
Yes.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Ms. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Stanley,
Yes.
Mrs. Penna.
Yes. All right, moving on to personnel. I'd like a motion to approve resolution A through AE, all board members, and resolution AF to AK Berkeley Heights only. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
is there any discussion?
I just want to say how proud I am of so much movement within the district. I think every one of the people that are moving within district on these, they came to these interviews ready to show off what they were qualified to do and what they want to see for Berkeley Heights Public Schools. And so I'm just really excited for them and I wish them the best of luck.
I'd also just like to add, we have a lot of really good candidates who are going to be stepping into these positions, and I'm very excited to have them all on board. So welcome to everybody who's joining the district. All right. Any further discussion? If not, can we have roll call, please, Mr. Smith?
Ms. Bradford,
Yes to all.
Mr. Chantrulli,
Yes to all except C.
Dr. Forger,
Yes to all.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes to items A through AE.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes to all.
Mrs. Stanley,
Yes.
Mrs. Penna.
Yes. Okay, business, motion to approve resolution A through P, all board members, and resolutions Q through R, Berkeley Heights only. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
Just to note for MNOP, it's really just a sweeping thank you. There's the amounts vary and the groups obviously vary, but got everything from copies of the Constitution to Friday Night Lights covered in here. So and of course not to skip over the baseball resurfacing. So those are big amounts of money for important dates. So thanks. Thanks to all.
Anybody else? I'd also like to say a big thank you for all our donations. We got a huge amount of donations here from different organizations, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much for all that you do for our students and our schools. If there's no more discussion, can I have roll call, please?
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mrs. Chanchuli,
Yes.
Dr. Forger,
Yes.
Mr. Hyman,
Yes on items A through P, as in Paul.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Stanley,
Yes to all.
and Mrs. Penna.
Yes. Moving on to finance, a motion to approve resolution A through D, all board members. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. Did you do the bills?
I was gonna say, you two competing? Yes.
One of the voices tonight.
Yeah. Okay, if, is there any discussion?
Who did the bills?
We did.
I think it was Mr. Chinchulli.
Tom and I.
Yeah,
Hey, look, somebody looked. at-
Tom and I did. I don't know if anybody else did, but Tom and I definitely did.
okay. All right,
Officially approve them?
Yeah.
any discussion?
Yes. Well, what should I say?
You don't have to.
Hmm?
If you-
There's one item I disagree with. It's the GAN law books, $2,786. And
Is it on here?
we bought those books in December of last year. And I believe that material, which deals with Title 18A and the regulatory Title 6A, is already online. In fact, I always consult it when I'm working on the policies. So it's readily available for free. So I don't think we really should we shouldn't really to buy those books. Yes.
All right, any more discussion? If no discussion, can we have roll call, please, Mr. Smith?
Mrs. Bradford,
Yes.
Mrs. Chanchuli,
Abstain.
Dr. Forger.
This is on the bill list, right?
Yeah,
So,
no, it's just on
It's on
finance.
finance,
Finance.
resolution A through D.
yeah. So on A, I'm voting no on check number 208694.
20869.
That's the GAN law books.
No, you're voting no,
And
okay.
I'm voting no on
Okay.
208662 and yes on the other bills.
There's another check number? There was a second check number?
208662.
662,
Yeah.
okay. The two of them, okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And then on the other items for finance, I vote yes.
okay. Mr. Hyman,
Yes.
Mrs. Connor,
Yes.
Mrs. Stanley,
Yes.
Mrs. Penna.
Yes. Okay, now we're moving on to the comment section for the public on any topic. I won't read the statement again, so if anybody would like to come up and make a comment on anything. So please come up to the podium. Thank you.
Hello again, Natasha Jolly, Berkeley Heights. So a couple of questions for you all. First, on a positive note, I want to say that I really like the new website. Much easier to navigate, looks much more professional, and so good stuff there. So in terms of questions, I was also happy to see the measurable targets, right, on the district goals. And, you know, I think we could have been a little bit more aggressive than 3%. I would like to know, you know, exactly what we're doing differently to achieve those targets. I mean, that was my original question. I think we heard some of the programs mentioned here, but, you know, the targets on their own without like a specific action plan. So I'd just like to understand what that is. Somewhat related, I think Ms. Khanna asked a question about thinking classrooms that really wasn't answered. So I'd just like to understand what is the state of thinking classrooms compared to what it was last year. When will you have the public meeting for the board goals? I think the board goals have been in discussion for over a year. So when is that likely to happen? And final, courtesy busing, that's another big one. What's the plan, or is there a plan for the plan? You know, now that everyone's back paying attention and kids are, you know, are on established routes, I think we need to review that one again quickly. And then finally, with respect to the budget process, right? Recently, there was some stuff that's been published that said that the Board of Education members did not review the detailed budget prior to voting on the final budget. I know there was a detailed budget that was circulated prior to the first budget meeting. Then there was a second meeting where there were a lot of revisions that were presented in PowerPoint form, but then a vote was taken. So my question to the board is, did the board have a chance to review the detailed line item budget? And, you know, just to understand how things are being accounted for. So, you know, how, like, you know, one question I had recently, you know, Mountainside pays us a lot of money. Do you, yes. So Mr. Hyman, well, no, I'm going to ask you about it. Do you know how the money's accounted for? Like, is it clear to you, looking at the budget process and the detail line budget, like where the money is going, and is it really going where you need it to go or you want it to go? So I think we just need to understand that. I mean, I think, you know, even if it's just a check for fat fingering or something, if it's a massive, you know, spreadsheet. So, all right, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Sai Bhargavi Akiri. I would like to say it was a great presentation on NJSLA, even though I think caught 20% of it on that side screen because nothing's viewable here. I just wanted to ask from the cohort slide that we got, and I don't know if maybe this is an answer to be. So how are we going to compare the cohorts? And again, a question that wasn't answered is, do we have any specific strategies for like the 8th graders in ELA where they were at 84%? Do we have a plan? So it was a great presentation. Can we get a follow-up presentation with strategies and plans for where we need to make some improvements? I think I saw some numbers when we were comparing genders and also free lunch programs, like the scores were not doing that great. Coming back to agenda and the attachments that's available, those are available for public. I would have loved to have a copy that the administration had or you all had for the presentation because nothing was viewable. So going forward, it's just a suggestion, like maybe a couple copies of the presentations that are going to be made so that the community and parents who are here can follow along. On the budget, we finally got to see a detailed budget, and there was a line item for textbooks. So this is my favorite question. Can every student have request for and have access to, say, math textbook or a science textbook? I know personally, we requested for a science textbook last year and a math, and we couldn't get one. So question is, can we get that this year? Coming to busing, we have equity and inclusion incorporated in our district goals. And we keep talking about it every single time, be it reconfiguration or hiring or educational practices. So my question to you is, how is it fair and equitable and inclusive in offering free courtesy busing with no criteria for some and denying subscription busing to 2 elementary schools. Why not send a bill to all until you can figure this out and just be fair and equitable? Because I think we are opening up to some sorts of issues here, because if there is no documented criteria, according to your email, Angela, the decision is arbitrary and capricious, and you're denying subscription busing to 2 elementary schools, which are 3 to 5. Also, I have a follow-up on, was the contract for Mr. Giordano on the agenda today? Because I didn't see it in the attachments. So I'm not sure, because last time Dr. Wardley said at the August 10th meeting, it was only for a month and we're going to reappoint or have a new contract. I didn't see anything in the agenda or the attachments that's on the district website. And can we get a target date for enabling Zoom? You know, you said you're going to do it TBD. It's been 4 or 5 months. So if I can get a target date, that would be great.
Thank you. Mr.
Thank you.
Secretary. Thank you. Oh,
Data mining of our students at Columbia Middle School and Governor Livingston is something that is part of our strategic plan, include, inspire, and update data mining. And we had a student school climate assessment that was given out to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th graders about family income, sexuality, gender. When will those results be made available to the public, to the stakeholders, to parents, to taxpayers? Also, last February, our DEI guru and our superintendent took a trip funded by the board, approved by the board, to San Antonio, Texas. That picture has been taken off of your social media, Dr. Varley, and I'm just wondering why, because that was a very important trip that you guys took and we had a discussion over it. And is that something that you'll be doing this February as well?
Ms. Sinclair, can you please address the board?
If I
Dr.
have
Varley,
to give,
not
if I
Dr.
have to give my name, which is Karin Sikoli, then I'm going to address the proper person. Thank you.
This is the board's meeting, so please address the board president. Thank you. Any more people anybody else from the audience would like to come up and make a comment on any topic? No? Okay, so we're going to close the session. Dr. Varley, do you or Dr. Giordano, have any answers for any of those questions?
Yes, hold on. So next month, we're going to talk about the district goals at the October meeting. So that is when we will talk about our targets and our plans to meet those targets. Every goal has an action plan behind it. So it's not like we just make a goal and leave it as it is. Building Thinking's classrooms, we are continuing with Building Thinking classrooms. Teachers are being supported and we're working through that now. That's not me. As far as the presentation, it was posted on the website exactly at 7:30. As far as textbooks, since we purchased textbooks and now they don't make physical textbooks that much anymore, like they don't make that many. They're generally online. We have some textbooks that we can give out, but we do not have enough for every single student. They are generally digital. Giordano's contract, we had one contract that was in June. Was it June? I know we had one in June and then we had one and then we had to update it. His contract is solid. We do not need to revote on that one contract. But we had to modify because he was voted in. He changed his start date, and which we were glad he got here earlier. And so we had to draw up a new contract for 1 month. And then his start date, his other contract kicked in once that was finished. As far as Ms. Sikoli, Mr. Hopkins is working on the data now. We are trying to get our DEI committee together in the next month or so to start working through some of the results that we have received. And the picture's still on Twitter is where, well, X, I guess is what you call it now. And we have been accepted, not Mr. Hopkins. Well, I think Mr. Hopkins is a part of it, for our bilingual program that we have at GL. And it's part of our contracts that we are allowed to go to national conferences and continue our learning. So we do have plans to attend. And that's it for me, I think.
John, did you have any? Okay. So I did have an answer to Ms. Jawley's question regarding the board goals. So just to clarify, this is the first time that this board has ever done this. And we're doing it in collaboration with the New Jersey School Boards Association representative, Mrs. Patricia Reese. So some of it's been collaboration between the two to organize dates so that we can make sure we, she can come, and because we've never done this before, so we need guidance on this. So I do have an update for the board on suggestions on when to meet. We were originally, we did our first presentation, and the suggestion was that we have a private meeting where we actually set the goals, because that meeting in itself can take up apparently up to an hour and a half. And we wanted to make sure that we had a meeting specifically scheduled just for that, so that we could take our time, work through it, and be given guidance. One of the other suggestions by Patricia Reese was that since we're going to the School Boards Association conference, there are a lot of sessions that will help board members to go to those sessions, who will help us with regards to setting our goals, so that we can get some ideas, so that when we do come to setting them, we have a better idea and understanding of how we should do that. So I'm going to update the board in new business, but we have some dates which I'm going to potentially put out there for a special meeting so that we can actually finally set our board goals. I just want you to understand that this is new for us. We've never done it before. So it's been a bit of collaboration and a bit of work between the teams to try and get this put together. So, and with regards to the courtesy busing, we had a discussion in the finance committee, and the discussion was that we're going to reevaluate and look at the busing. And Mr. Smith, I don't know if you want to mention that we're looking at getting a third party involved. Did you want to elaborate on that?
We're going to get someone else to do a survey for us, because maybe we're some savings we can make someplace that we already reached out to several people. We're going to get, once we get it back, we'll let you know at the next finance committee meeting.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I know this is frustrating and I understand, but we want to make sure this time that we do it properly. We don't want to do anything without getting a third party involved and figuring it out and make sure that we do it properly. So that's the end. That's why it's potentially taking a little bit longer. And I think that's it. So moving on to, sorry? I'm going to have to discuss that with the committee meeting. I'm going to have to get a meeting put together for the technology and committee meeting, and then we'll have to discuss that. Okay, moving on to new business. Anybody got any new business other than, no? Oh, I'm sorry, Dipti, go ahead.
I had two things. And Tom, I know you raised your hand. Can I go first?
Yeah, certainly.
Thank you. One, I don't know who to address. Is this a curriculum committee question or something else? But I think our fifth graders go for like the geography B that happens. And then, I think you go through like a general round, and if you get chosen, then you get higher up. I don't know if we are doing that consistently in other grades, but I'm curious to know if we've thought about, spelling bee in addition to the geography bee, and sort of driving more rigor into that to kind of generate the interest, have the kids participate. It becomes a little competitive. So, it has that a level of interest that kids and parents are. So I'm curious, and I don't know who, is this a curriculum committee? Is this, just as a board, we should talk and think and figure out how we want to.
Yeah, this is not a board role. This would be an administrative role. Sai has already reached out to Dr. Seminario, and so
Okay.
she will, she will bring it up with the elementary principals as far as that is concerned.
Okay, that'd be great. The second one was to the policy committee. We have all of these policies that either are coming up for revision, new policies abolish. My suggestion is when the policy committee gets these documents, is it possible for the rest of the board members to get a copy at that time so that we can actually have more time with the changes instead of the process that we follow right now?
I thought you give them quite far in advance.
We do, but they have to go through the committee first. You're not suggesting you get them at this, the entire board gets them
Right,
at
I'm
the same time
curious,
as the
is
committee.
it possible for the rest of the board to get it at the same time?
No, I don't know that it's a question of time. Is your question that basically can every board member have a copy of?
Yes, just
the
have a
initial-
copy. They don't have to all be on the committee. Obviously, we can't. But can we get the copy when the policy committee kind of, whenever you, I assume, release the information to the committee? Just so that we can, get more time to understand, ask questions, go back and forth as needed.
I don't support that because you wouldn't be asking questions on you're going to be voting on. That's the whole thing is you vet them first in committee. You'll be looking at things that are not ultimately applicable and be commenting on things that won't exist by the time of the board meeting that you'll never perhaps vote on. It would be a lot. It's a lot of work now that I think is partially unfortunate. It shouldn't be, all of it shouldn't be necessary, but it is, and it's important. But there's no reason to add another layer of confusion.
It's
There
not
really is
confusion. It is just everybody having that information at the same time. That's it.
But
it's a suggestion.
make
Think
sense.
about it. I mean, I don't expect an answer right this minute. You can think about it.
So, Robert, you give them quite far in advance, right?
No, I think there's two different things here.
Oh.
There's the policy committee gets them from Strauss Esme and they go through Dr. Barley's office. Then we discuss them in committee.
Correct.
And then all the board members get them well in advance
That's
of
what
the
I'm saying.
board
You get
meeting.
them well in advance.
I think Dipty is asking for the draft straight from Strauss Esme
Oh, I
for
see.
every single board member to have before they're even discussed in committee. I don't support that. That would be unnecessarily confusing.
Okay.
And, not applicable in many cases. You don't want to always, I think you should see what you're going to vote on.
Dr. Barter, you had a question? Or you had new business, right?
Yeah.
You wanted to bring up some new
Yeah,
business.
I have a motion, actually. I move to continue indemnification of Saya Kiri for her legal expenses in connection with
Dr.
the
Forger,
ethics
you
case.
are discussing a closed session item in
No, I'm not.
public again.
I'm bringing up something for the board to consider. And I have the floor, Francis.
And I'm just warning you, Dr. Forger, that
Yes.
you can be very mindful as to what you're going to discuss in public session as it concerns closed session items. I'm warning you is all, and now your actions are your own.
Okay, so the motion is what? I
This-
don't think so.
This is an executive session discussion.
I think we need to decide as a board.
This is an executive session discussion, Dr.
I
Forger.
think so.
It cannot be discussed in
All right,
public.
then let's do it in exec session.
Fine.
And we can do it tonight.
We can't do it tonight, but we can,
All right. What
we
can we-
can,
next time. then?
you can
Thank,
reach out to,
thank you
and
for next time.
discuss that.
All right.
Okay. Anybody else got any new business before I adjourn the meeting?
I was on a much lighter note. I was just going to say that I think it's cool. I think Olivia mentioned it way back a couple hours ago that there's a homecoming dance that's coming back. I don't know the last time Rob's gone. The last time we had one at GL, it's been a while for sure. And I think it's a credit to the students that I think bubbled this up initially whenever they started bubbling it up. And also I think to Anne and Rob and company for pulling it off in pretty record time. Probably the PTO, I'm guessing, and others, booster clubs, probably a lot of people in there. But whatever it is, I know zero details, except I'm encouraging kids to go. I think it's great that it's back. So
Yeah, no, it's super exciting. And thank you, Jake and Olivia, for staying so long. This was a very long meeting. In the future, you do not have to stay so long.
You have to catch my eye. Usually you do. And I'm like, oh, go.
I just wanted to say a couple of things that came up. The website really, I know it's small steps and we have so much more to go and so much more to update, but it is a big step for Berkeley Heights. And I really want to thank Dr. Varley, especially for making this a priority and finding funds for it and taking those funds and saving them for this. She has heard the complaints over and over, and she's complained herself about the website. So I really appreciate that, and getting all the staff involved. I want to give Dr. Guerrier so much credit for this. He really, really did so much work. I just wanted to say about the presentation. There have been steps put in place, like the curriculum committee has talked about this, not just the last time we had a specific talk about data, but in previous, there are so many steps that we are taking to improve our scores, but they've been going on for years. And a lot of that is actually under Dr. Varley, right? Like she has brought in Mrs. Kopaz to focus on our K through 5, right? Then when she was going to retire, she was like, we need, right, an early education intervention, right? Like we do not want to lose that stamina. And then we've created curriculum, right, cycles, so that way all of our K through 5 gets looked at. So there's been things going on for years, and they will continue to do that. I know right in the high school, they're looking at the English language and math and finding ways to do this during lunch times and AP times and whatnot. So they're finding creative ways to help our students because they really want to look at the whole child. And I can't tell you during that curriculum meeting for 2 hours how much our administrators' hearts are for our students. Like they care so much about these kids, and they want to do everything they can to help every student, not just the high accelerating ones, not the low ones, but everyone in between. So I really do encourage you to reach out to our administrators and to find out what they're doing and all the things that they do for our students, because it really is incredible. And our students are amazing, right? They do amazing things. And some of our top ones, like Catherine going to MIT, but the thing that makes her great is that she went over the summer and talked with our STEAM teachers because she's still invested in getting women into these programs. People like Gia tonight, who opened her heart, right? Like that is such a vulnerable thing to say, and to say it and mean it and say, I found myself, right, by going through these difficult things. So our students are amazing. And when I think about Berkeley Heights Public Schools, I don't think about the test scores. I think about all of these things. And so I just wanted to make that clear that a lot of these things are because we have Dr. Varley and the team she's assembled. And I really thank you for that, because we're making some great changes for Berkeley Heights.
One last thing, sorry, break Olivia very quickly. I do dates for the board goals special meeting. I've got Monday, October the 30th and Thursday, November the 2nd. I'm not expecting you guys to give me an answer right now, but straight after as soon as we get back from the conference, I'd like to get that meeting put together. I've already spoken to Patricia Reese. Those dates are available for her. So think about it, get back to me, and
What point in the day as well? What are we talking about?
I'm talking about the board goals.
No, but what point in the day?
It
You
would
just
be an
said
evening. It
dates.
would be an evening meeting, like we always do.
And it'll be a public meeting.
Oh,
right?
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay, so
But
a
it would be
session like this,
But it would be specifically just for the board goals. There would be no other agenda,
there'd be no other.
nothing
agenda.
else.
Okay.
Just the board with Mrs. Reese here helping us set our goals and
Got
having
it.
a discussion. So her two dates were October the 30th and November the 2nd. She was available for those dates shortly after we get back from the conference. So we'll have all those interesting sessions that we went to, fresh in our minds. So we'll have some better ideas of how we want to move forward.
So
All right?
these would be goals that we would essentially, it'll be for the new board effectively, right?
I would.
Because by the
I would
time.
think so.
Yeah.
I would think so, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So probably makes sense to revisit that in January with new members.
Okay. All right, so if there's no more new business, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion- Meeting adjourned.
Go in.